Mrs. Elena lived in a small, pretty blue house on Hollybrook Lane. She was known for her beautiful garden in the summer. But in December, her home was usually the brightest. Her husband, Mr. Thomas, loved Christmas lights. Every year, Mr. Thomas would start decorating on December 1st. He would climb the ladder, humming Christmas songs, and their house would soon shine with hundreds of colorful lights, red, green, and blue, until it looked like a giant, happy jewel on the street. But this year was different. The ladder stayed tucked away in the shed. Mr. Thomas was not there anymore. This was Mrs. Elena's first Christmas alone, and the stillness of the dark house was a heavy blanket. The thought of bringing out just one string of lights felt too difficult. It made her heart ache with sadness. It was December 24th, Christmas Eve. All the other houses on Hollybrook Lane were bright and shining. Clara, who was 12, walked by with her younger brother, Tom, returning from an afternoon of shopping with their parents. They stopped in front of Mrs. Elena's house. "Look, Clara," Tom whispered, pointing. "Mrs. Elena's house is dark. No lights at all." Clara looked. The blue house was completely silent. There was no wreath on the door, and the windows were bare. It felt cold, even from the outside. That evening, the Miller family sat around their own bright, warm dinner table. The air smelled of roast chicken and nutmeg. "It feels strange that Mrs. Elena's house is dark," Mom said, looking out the window at the quiet street. "She always loved Christmas so much." Dad sighed deeply. "She must be missing Mr. Thomas very much. He used to tell me he was decorating not just for himself, but for every child who passed by." Mom picked up Clara's hand. "It's the hardest time of year to be quiet and alone." Clara suddenly spoke up, looking out at the dark house. "Can we do something for her, Mom? Even a little thing? If we just make her porch glow, maybe it won't feel so heavy for her." Mom smiled at Clara, a special warm smile. "That is the perfect Christmas thought, Clara. Kindness is the best gift we can give, much better than anything we wrap." They quickly made a plan about sharing their Christmas spirit. Dad brought the small, potted evergreen tree out from the garage, and Clara and Tom worked quickly. They carefully wrapped warm, white LED lights around every branch and hung shiny red glass balls on the tips, making it look like a miniature Christmas masterpiece. Carrying it across the street was a serious job, with Tom holding the base and Dad holding the top. The air outside bit at their cheeks, but the cold made the light seem even warmer. Tom carefully placed the little tree on Mrs. Elena's porch, right next to the front door. Clara stretched the string of lights around the porch railing and plugged them into the outside socket. They all stepped back to watch. Click! The lights came on, glowing softly and immediately warming the look of the dark house. The small, plain blue house now had a tiny, bright smile on its face. While the children admired their work, Mom noticed that the wooden step leading up to Mrs. Elena's porch looked loose and uneven. That step is wobbly, dear, she told Dad. If she steps on it in the dark, she could get hurt. Dad nodded and immediately fetched a small bag of tools. Tap, tap, tap went the hammer, soft and careful. He wasn't just fixing wood. He was building safety and care into the house. It took him a few patient minutes, but the step was finally safe and sturdy again. When he finished, Mom held a small basket covered with a clean white cloth. Inside the basket were fresh, soft gingerbread cookies that smelled wonderful, a colorful, thick Christmas card with a worn message written by the whole family, and a big red mug with a bag of Mrs. Miller's special hot chocolate mix. The Miller family stood on the newly fixed step. Clara pressed the doorbell, trying to make the ringing sound as friendly as possible. Inside, Mrs. Elena was sitting in her big armchair, drinking a cup of simple tea. She was trying to read, but the quiet house was too distracting. When the doorbell rang, she was surprised. She thought no one would visit on Christmas Eve. She slowly opened the door. The bright white lights from the small tree almost blinded her for a moment. She saw the lovely little tree and the shiny red balls. Then she saw the Miller family standing there, smiling, their faces rosy from the cold. "Oh, goodness," Mrs. Elena whispered. "What is all this?" "Merry Christmas Eve, Mrs. Elena," Clara said cheerfully. "We brought you some light and some warmth," Mom said, holding out the basket. "We fixed the step so it is safe. And we wanted to make sure you had some good hot chocolate for tonight." Mrs. Elena looked at the bright little tree, then at the warm cookies, and then at their kind, waiting faces. She felt a wave of sadness lift from her heart, replaced by a deep warmth. Tears came to her eyes, but they were happy tears. "Please," she said, opening the door wider. "Please, come in. You must come in and tell me how you fixed that step. And tell me how your gingerbread cookies smell so wonderfully." The Miller family stepped inside, bringing the cold smell of pine and the warm feeling of community with them. They sat down in the living room, which was dark, but quickly filled with their friendly voices. Mrs. Elena poured tea for the adults and found 2 small glasses for Clara and Tom. The room, though still dark, was buzzing with warmth. "I can't believe you fixed that step," Mrs. Elena said, shaking her head in wonder. "Thomas always meant to do it, but he never got around to it. That's true help." Clara told her funny stories about how messy Tom had been with the icing on his gingerbread house. Tom, sitting closer now, told her about the giant Christmas tree the Millers had cut down last weekend, describing the sticky pine sap and the great smell. Mrs. Elena listened, laughing quietly. She looked at Dad. "You know," she said softly, "the dark house was just fine when it was just me. But when I saw that little tree, I realized how much I missed the light. You brought the light back, not just to the porch, but in here," she said, placing a hand on her chest. Before the Millers finally bundled up to leave, Mrs. Elena went to a dusty storage cabinet. She reached up carefully and took out a perfect, shiny silver ornament, shaped like a bell. This was Mr. Thomas's favorite, she told Clara, handing it to her carefully. He said it sounded like true Christmas cheer when it rang. Clara held the cold, beautiful ornament. "It is a gift of thanks," Mrs. Elena continued. "You and your family didn't just bring me cookies and lights. You brought the true Christmas spirit back to my house tonight. Thank you for chasing away the quiet." The Miller family walked home, the silver ornament sparkling under the streetlights, not jingling yet, but holding the promise of joy. They knew their kindness had given Mrs. Elena the best gift of all, the gift of not being alone. And that, Clara decided, was the perfect way to spend Christmas Eve, far better than any brightly wrapped present under a tree.